Hello everybody, welcome back to another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video. My name is D-Free. Here today we are going to be talking about a ton of things, so I hope you guys enjoy. Of course, hit subscribe if you were new. And we are going to start off by mentioning that Super Dragon Ball Heroes is getting a worldwide release. The Switch game slash PC game is getting a worldwide release. This is huge news because this means a ton of different things, from the fact that maybe we can get some Dragon Ball Heroes exclusive Dokkan Festival units now, because of course they probably didn't want to really do that too much because of Global and the fact that Global never could get those units. Speaking of which, this does, a lot of people are jumping to the assumption that this means Global can finally get those units, and I would agree with that as far as things are concerned for this video. Of course, we're going to talk about that too. The fact that Global could get the older backlog of Dragon Ball Heroes units that JP has gotten for the last few years that Global never ever got. It just can mean a ton of different things. And for context, for the people that don't know what Dragon Ball Heroes was, very, very briefly, it originates as a arcade machine game in Japan, exclusive to Japan. So yes, you go there, you play with the actual physical cards in the arcade machine. It did also have some DS game releases, and here we go with its first ever Switch release, and they are taking the opportunity, capitalizing on the height of Dragon Ball's powers right now, and releasing the game worldwide. The game's been out for almost a decade, right? It's not new, because this isn't because of that little 5-minute anime thing they're doing, which I don't really watch. But anyways, it has nothing to do with that. It's just they're trying to release it, and this is huge because for context as well, again, it means a lot, not just for Dokkan, but just for merchandising in the world as far as Dragon Ball is concerned, because they also, when things would get, localized, they would literally change the logo if it was a Dragon Ball Heroes thing to being marketed as a Dragon Ball Super product, so it's weird. Anyways, that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Today's video like goal is 1,000 likes. Let's go ahead and get it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. All right, so today, I'll leave this video down below if you guys want to check out the trailer, but April 5th, excuse me, is the day. That's not even far. That's less than 3 months away. That is the day, guys. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of Dragon Ball Heroes content coming out. And here is the thumbnail for that video. Again, check it out. It's a pretty cool game. So let's go ahead and move on. So we're going to talk about the banners that have come to the Japanese version of the game. We're going to talk about the units there. I'm going to give you guys some of my opinions on some of the ones that do need to get buffs. And we're going to just talk about everything. So as far as buffs are concerned, that's a really, really touchy subject, because there are things like buffs that are between the two games that don't really take place on the other game. For example, a good example would be Kaioken Goku, Super Kaioken Goku. Now, I believe with Fierce Battle on Global, because he does not have that, he does do a little bit more damage, but he doesn't have the dodging and things like that. So it's just, there are buffs one way or another, right? Also, another one that's probably the most prevalent example of a buff for the global version of the game that JP never got is Goku Black, having the ability to support 3 key passives. So the physical Goku Black that came out on global, he got that, and JP just never did. Maybe if he Extreme Z Awakens, but until then, as of right now, no. So I do think it's possible that on release, if they wanted to make the Dragon Ball Heroes units, more accessible, make them better, they will do that. But of course, we'll have to see what happens. So I want to kind of backtrack. So Dragon Ball Heroes had a crossover banner about, I want to say about 3 years ago. The first one, this one came out a few years ago. There could be a release date on here. I don't see it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time for that. Also, the following year, they released the same banner, but the difference was, on the following year, SS3, well, Gotenks here, Teen Gotenks, did awaken into SS3 Teen Gotenks, courtesy of the physical Gotenks' medals as well. So this is another card that is going to be applicable to all of this. So to me, this is my favorite unit, so I'm going to take the opportunity to ask you guys today's question of the day as well before I forget. If you are a global player, let me know in the comment section down below, out of the entire list of characters from Dragon Ball Hero characters that have been in the game, which one are you most anxious to use if you want to use any? If you're a Japanese player, let me know in the comment section down below, out of this series for Dragon Ball Heroes, which one do you want to see in the game the most? That could be anything. Any of the crazy SS4s that they have, SS3 Nappa, yes, whatever you want. So there we go. So they did that, and I think that first and foremost, when this, if and or when this comes to global, just disregarding buffs right now, they're going to start off with this banner, right? I don't think they're going to jump to this banner, because this banner actually just came out, by the way, but I don't think they're going to drop them all in one banner or anything like that. But I think they're going to start with this, but they're not going to take their time to release 2 separate iterations of this banner, right? It's the same banner that came back twice on JP. This is the second time, again, he was able to awaken. I think he's going to come out and just be able to awaken. That's just it. He's going to come out and be able to awaken, and that's just how they're going to do things, which is good. That's the right way to do it. But the issue is he himself is fine, I guess, because he has such a powerful leader skill, such a solid percentage-based boost on SS3 category, you know, 100% up, 6-turn attack raise. His key multiplier is the worst thing about him. 130 is very subpar these days. That and supreme damage, but otherwise, I mean, he's actually aging pretty well, right? But the rest of his banner does kind of need some work. If we take a look back at the rest of the units on this original banner, we have Super Pycon, Baby Janem, and then Kid Buu with Bobbity Absorb. So plus 10,000 attack when facing only one enemy. Big whoop, right? This type of stuff is where I look at this banner and I'm like, well, would anybody even want to own these units, right? This kind of makes me think they would just skip this banner. But I don't think they're going to skip the chance to feature brand new units is my point. Because all of these units do make their way onto this banner. All of them are here. They're not featured, but they're all actually on the banner. So it's just kind of weird. But I don't think they're going to skip this, again, because these are 4 units that deserve to be featured, and they will feature, in my opinion. But 10,000 facing one enemy, that at least needs to be, by now, probably about 30,000 today's. And I know that's such a huge jump, right? But it's not. At least 30,000. He probably needs at least some sort of flat boost of defense as well. Supreme damage and great reduction of attack, that's fine. That can stay. You know, he's not a festival exclusive. But other than that, like, this card needs a huge upgrade, right? So when we move on to another card, we have Baby Janemba, who was an incredibly good and relevant unit back in the 70% meta, where we had AGL Super Vegito as our primary leader, our best leader in the game. Supreme damage and great lowering defense, whatever. Recovering 10% HP will never be bad. That'll never be bad. Healing at the start of the turn will never be bad. Unless you want big bad bosses, I guess. But still, it's never bad. But 5,000 attack and defense at the start of the turn was very good then. We were in a weird spot earlier on in the game, back in like year 1, year 2, where you can get away with using these types of passive because they were arguably better because the leader skill wasn't as crazy. Potential system wasn't a thing either. That's the biggest part about it. Potential system wasn't a thing either. So it's just this type of stuff was very, very good then, but is incredibly subpar. Again, just like the Pycon, this needs to be probably at least 20,000, 30,000 to even be relevant, right? Those are numbers that far outseed a unit like Super Saiyan Blue Cow Ken currently, by the way. So things like that, you do need that. And then we have Kid Buu here, who's probably the most polarizing because at the time, again, for the same reasons, no potential system, meaning decreased stats, lower leader skills, this type of passive went overlooked. But honestly, that's still a really solid passive, but it has a horrible condition on it. So if it's 99% or below, or if they treat him like they did Physical Kid Buu, where he has 2 separate boosts, you know, 99% or below, and then like 79% or above, whatever they did, they could do something like that and he'd be fine. High chance to stun the enemy. While you can't stun nearly as much as you used to, still solid. Extreme damage needs to go. And other than that, I think he's fine, but it would be cool if he offered an attack and defensive boost as well. So that's kind of how I feel about the original banner. Gotenks, it would be nice if he picked up defense, but I mean, he's cool at least, as he is, because unlike the others, he actually awakens. Like, they don't even have TURs, right? So when it comes to the brand new banner, though, I don't really have criticism for this banner because it actually, the units on this banner are going to age very, very well, especially the Vegeta and the Goku, because they're 2 units that have very, very good mechanics. The Goku has a built-in Janemba mechanic, and for comparison's sake, right, the guard against all abilities mechanic, again, it's the Janemba mechanic. These are the units that have it, right? And there are units that have it innately always, this top row, always. And then there are units that don't always have it, like these. Like, here we have a festival exclusive unit who gets it 25% of the time. That's horrendously bad in comparison. So a unit like Goku is going to have it all of the time and age incredibly well because of it. 80% attack and defense at the start of the turn. Immense damage, by the way. Also, key multiplier is going to be 140, which is a bit higher than 130, of course. Plus an additional 30%. Like, these are units. He's going to age very well. Vegeta has an additional 50% in disabling enemies' guard. While not as impressive as Goku's mechanic, is still something to reckon with. So, like, these guys are going to be fine. Immense damage as well. Now, the other units kind of don't age as well because they don't have immense, but the Supreme Opie of Time is going to be just fine because they're beautiful support passive. Black Mask Saiyan here, the Vegeta. Again, 90%. I have videos for these a lot of these units if you want to check them out, but 90%, another 30%. He's cool. You know, like, that type of stuff is cool. So I don't think anything's going to happen to these units, even if they come to global for context a year later. Like, they could literally come a year later, if assuming that they drop this first banner right now, and then the other stuff comes a year later. I don't think anything's going to happen. But another thing I wanted to touch on before we get out of here is the fact that now that Global finally has, well, not Global, just in general, finally that there is going to be some sort of marketing for Dragon Ball Heroes outside of Japan, that opens up the doors, guys. That really, really opens the doors for a potential Dokkan Fest unit. Now, they have already kind of tread those waters a little bit because we do have units like Bardock SS3, Vegeta SS3, Broly SS3. We have units like that that are not Heroes exclusive. Then this is where it kind of makes sense. But they do come from Heroes as well. They're in Heroes. They're not in the original series, but the characters have made appearances in things like Raging Blast. For Broly, they've made appearances in Xenoverse, you know, like Bardock and Vegeta 2 from Raging Blast, I believe, as well. So, like, that type of stuff is kind of why they never really had any sort of issue with that. But from here, I would only imagine that a crossover banner between Global, because of that, is perfectly fine. And since that's the case, we should have the ability to do full-on Dokkan Fest units. I'm going to go ahead and drop a prediction here. I do think that the Year 4 anniversary, right? I think Year 4's anniversary is probably going to feature some Dragon Ball Heroes units, or Super Dragon Ball Heroes, whatever the case is. I think that it's going to have that. Also because it's going to be a way to promo the game, because the Japanese Year 4 is at the end of the month, pretty much the beginning of February, and that's just a couple of months away. And then the Global's anniversary is just a couple months after the release as well. So, like, it's actually a really good thing, timeline-wise, if you want to promote that game. So I do think it's going to have some sort of integration with, again, Dragon Ball Heroes. And if that's the case, it's not a huge deal because now they can do it because Global should be able to get that stuff. But that also does mean that Global should get this stuff sooner than later if they want to try to drop Dragon Ball Heroes units, unless they want to drop all of them at one point, I guess, in July or whatever the case is. We'll see what happens with that. But altogether, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you guys think that this is going to turn into a situation, like I said, where we get a festival exclusive? Do you guys think that there's going to be any sort of buffs or awakenings? I want to kind of go back to that really quickly. I am all for awakenings because I'm scared buffs won't translate between both games, like they won't give it to both games based off of track records. I'd rather have awakenings. I don't know why these guys don't awaken now anyway. It's the same thing with Dragon Ball Fusions. I didn't cover Dragon Ball Fusions here because it's an entirely not related banner for the people that might be confused. But it's the same thing with that. Some units there need to awaken as well, so hopefully they just decide to awaken these units. But the issue with awakening is they don't really have relative events, but I guess maybe since they're doing this, it's also a possibility they create Dokkan events like I was just saying, and maybe even story events. Those are things that they haven't done for Dragon Ball Heroes, but we'll see what happens. And then, of course, a good example would be the Fighters stuff, because Fighters is a game that was out already worldwide. They were able to cross over, get their main character, Android 21, their original character, in fact, and also create a story event around it and just a whole bunch of stuff. So I think that's a really good barometer. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you guys for the continued support here on the channel. We are closing in on 200,000. We're at 185, basically. Yo, guys, thank you guys so much. We are getting there. Thank you. And I'll catch all of you guys in the next Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video, guys.